If you've ever ended a relationship and thought, he'll be upset, but he'll get over it, this case is going to hit you in the gut. Because on a summer night in Massachusetts, an 18-year-old girl did what so many people do after a hard breakup. She tried to be kind. She tried to give closure. She tried to help someone she once loved feel okay. And that choice put her on a path that ended with her father walking the shoreline in the dark, searching the waves with a flashlight, still believing he might be able to bring his daughter home. This is the murder of Lauren Astley and the boyfriend who couldn't accept the word no. And before we begin, this story involves real people and real loss. We're telling it to remember Lauren, to understand the warning signs, and to talk about how breakup violence can escalate faster than anyone wants to believe. Now, let's start with the night her dad got the call. It was late, the kind of night where the air feels heavy and everything is quiet enough that you can hear your own footsteps. Lauren's car had been found in a parking lot near the town beach. Windows down, her bag still inside, her laptop still there. But Lauren was gone. Her father, Malcolm, didn't hesitate. He rushed there with one thought. If she's in trouble, I can still fix this. I can still find her. I can still save her. He grabbed a flashlight and walked along the shoreline, scanning the dark water like the ocean was going to give his daughter back if he just looked hard enough. But there was nothing. No splash, no voice, no sign, just the sound of waves, and a fear starting to take shape. And here's the part that makes this even harder to wrap your head around. Back at school, people used to look at Lauren and her boyfriend and think they were one of those couples that made sense. He was the tall, serious athlete. She was petite, bright, energetic, always in motion, always smiling, always doing something. They'd known each other for years, but it wasn't until senior year of high school that they started dating. First love, first real relationship, the kind with inside jokes, promises, plans, and that feeling that the world is opening up and you're walking into it together. They lasted about 3 years, and then, like so many teenage relationships, the cracks started showing. But what happened after they broke up is what nobody expected, and what a lot of people still struggle to accept. Because the truth doesn't match the image, and the image was everything. Before we get deeper, quick question. Where are you watching from right now? And what time is it there? I always like seeing how far these stories travel. Drop it in the comments and I'll keep going. Lauren Astley was born April 1st, 1993, in Massachusetts. Her parents, Mary and Malcolm, were educators, teachers who believed in structure, honesty, responsibility. The kind of parents who didn't just say, be a good person, but tried to model it. Lauren was their world. Even after they divorced, they stayed united in the one thing that mattered most, their daughter. And Lauren was the kind of kid who seemed to have a battery pack inside her. She didn't just try things, she committed. She sang. She played sports, tennis, soccer. She performed in choirs. She was involved in youth symphony. She did community events. She did service projects. She acted, at one point taking a lead role in a local production of Annie. People described her as small, around 4 feet 11 inches, but she was unforgettable. Not because she was loud, but because she was alive. She had a presence. She was the kind of person who'd walk into a room and somehow make it feel lighter, and she cared, deeply. There are people who are nice, and then there are people who actually show up when it matters. Lauren showed up. As a middle schooler, she traveled to help after Hurricane Katrina, and she went back again. When she saw suffering, she didn't just feel bad, she wanted to do something. By high school, she wasn't just popular, she was respected. Teachers liked her, friends leaned on her. Even people who barely knew her felt like they did. And around that time, Lauren started dating a boy she'd known for years, Nathaniel Fujita. Nathan was a standout athlete at Wayland High School. Football, fast, tall, the kind of guy other students recognized in the hallway. He was also, by many accounts, serious. Not goofy, Not the class clown, more intense. His parents were involved, well known in their own right. His dad was a musician and teacher. His family wasn't distant or invisible. And that's important, because one of the hardest truths in cases like this is that danger doesn't always come with a stereotype. It can come from the kid with a bright future, the kid with the scholarship, the kid with parents who show up, the kid who looks normal. For the first couple of years, Lauren and Nathan seemed fine. They did the usual: sports, school events, hanging out, spending time with family. People thought they were a good match. But slowly, the relationship shifted into something else. The arguments started creeping in, the breakups, the reunions, the emotional whiplash. One day they were all over each other. The next day it was silent tension. And if you've ever seen a relationship like that, especially in high school, you know how fast it can become an identity. Not, I'm Lauren, not, I'm Nathan, but we are Lauren and Nathan. And when that becomes the identity, a breakup doesn't just feel like heartbreak. It can feel like erasure. And that's where the psychology matters. Because there are people who feel rejection as disappointment, and people who feel rejection as humiliation. And humiliation is gasoline. Friends noticed Nathan could be jealous, possessive, quick-tempered, especially if alcohol was involved. Lauren, meanwhile, was growing into herself. She was thinking ahead: college, new experiences, a wider world. She applied to Elon University in North Carolina. Nathan planned to attend Trinity College in Connecticut, where he had football opportunities. They were about to go in different directions anyway, and Lauren started realizing something that happens to a lot of people right around graduation. She didn't want to carry this relationship into the next chapter. Her friends, seeing the stress, the patterns, the jealousy, wanted her to walk away for good. They even put together a list: reasons, red flags. And Lauren listened. On her birthday in April 2011, she ended it. To her, it felt like relief, like she could finally breathe. She later described that day as one of the best days of her life. But Nathan didn't experience it as closure. He experienced it as loss and control slipping away. And when control starts slipping away for someone who is wired to need it, that's when you see the shift. After the breakup, Nathan reportedly spiraled. He stopped acting like himself, stopped training, stopped going out, stopped showing up. He spent long stretches on the couch, withdrawn, depressed, and the coping strategies weren't healthy. Heavy drinking, daily marijuana use, isolation. His mom was worried enough to get him professional help. A diagnosis of severe depression came up later in court discussions. But here's the other thing: Lauren still cared. Even though she didn't want to be with him, she didn't want him destroyed. That's a kind of empathy a lot of people have, and it can become a trap. Because when you're a decent person, you can confuse kindness with safety. You can think, he's hurting. If I'm just gentle, it'll help. But for someone who can't accept rejection, kindness can look like an opening. And Lauren's friends warned her about that. Don't reach out. Don't give him hope. Don't blur the line. Lauren heard them, but she was also Lauren, the person who shows up. Then came the summer party, a big celebration after graduation. Hundreds of students, music, laughter, that feeling of one last night before everything changes. Nathan was there, and he was drunk. At some point, he tried to pull Lauren back in, tried to reconcile. Lauren shut it down, firmly: leave me alone. And that rejection, public, direct, lit something up in him. He followed her around, hovered, interfered, watched who she talked to. Lauren broke down at one point, crying to a friend because he wouldn't stop. And then it escalated. Nathan hit one of the tent poles hard enough that the entire tent collapsed. Think about that moment. A party full of teenagers, and suddenly the entire structure drops. People screaming, scrambling, shocked. The vibe changes instantly. Now it's not fun, it's tension. And the message is clear: even if nobody says it out loud. This isn't normal upset. This is rage. People told him to leave. The party was basically ruined. Lauren told her mother about it afterward. Not like, oh, my ex is annoying. More like, he will not accept this. He is furious. And if you're listening and you're thinking, okay, that's concerning, you're right. Because that moment wasn't just drama, it was a preview. Then we get to July 3rd, 2011. Lauren was working a shift at a mall. She had a job, she was saving money, she was about to start college. Security cameras captured her arriving that morning and later leaving after her shift. She was on the phone as she walked out. She had plans afterward: meet friends, go for a walk, do something normal. She never showed. And here's one of the most chilling parts. Her friends knew immediately something was wrong. Because Lauren wasn't flaky. If she couldn't make it, she'd say so. If she was running late, she'd text. If her plans changed, she'd communicate. But she didn't. Her father, Malcolm, also sensed it. Something was off. So he called police. Right away. And this is important. In many missing person cases, people hesitate. They convince themselves it's nothing. They wait. Lauren's family and friends didn't wait. Police started moving. That same night, they found Lauren's red Jeep at the town beach. Windows down, her bag and laptop inside, no sign of Lauren. And to a parent, that's not just a clue, that's a nightmare. Because it suggests either panic, force, or interruption. People don't leave their car like that if everything is fine. Malcolm ran toward the water when he got there. Like maybe she'd gone in, like maybe she was stuck somewhere. Like maybe he could still pull her out. He searched with that flashlight. Nothing. Lauren's friends stayed on that beach all night, sitting in the dark, waiting. Because at that point, their brains still couldn't go where reality was headed. The next morning, before sunrise, a cyclist rode along a road near a marshy area not far from town. She noticed something floating. At first it didn't register. Then it did. It was a body. It was Lauren. She was found in the water, close to the road, about 5 miles away from Wayland. And when investigators examined her, they saw the injury that immediately changed everything. A deep wound to her neck. A fatal throat slash. There was also an elastic cord tangled in her hair. Lauren Astley wasn't missing. She'd been murdered. Now the town shifted from concern to shock. People who had watched Lauren and Nathan for years couldn't compute it. They'd seen them as a couple. They'd seen him as the football kid, the one with the future. She was everything to him. How could he do that? And the truth is, a lot of people struggle to accept violence when it doesn't match the person they thought they knew. Because accepting it means admitting something terrifying. You can be close to someone and still not know what they're capable of when they lose control. Police started where police always start: the inner circle, friends, family, recent contacts, romantic partners, and quickly the breakup came up. When officers pressed, Lauren's friends admitted Nathan had taken it badly. But even then, some of them insisted he couldn't hurt her. Police didn't rely on belief. They relied on patterns: jealousy, possessiveness, recent breakup, escalation at a party, a need for control. So that evening, they went to Nathan's house. Nathan said he'd been home. He said he'd seen Lauren that day for about 5 minutes. She supposedly pulled up, didn't get out. They talked briefly, she left. On the surface, that could sound harmless. But police now had a timeline. They knew Lauren left work and was on the phone. Phone records would later show who she was talking to. And it wasn't a mystery. She was talking to Nathan. She hadn't told anyone she planned to see him. And that makes sense psychologically too. Because when you're doing something you know your friends will warn you against, you keep it quiet. I'll just talk to him for a minute. I'll just help him feel better. I'll just make sure he's okay. Lauren was trying to do the decent thing. But in a situation like this, decent can become dangerous. The investigation tightened fast. On July 4th, police returned to Nathan's house. He was gone. His parents said they didn't know where he was. Police secured a search warrant, and what they found inside the home, especially in the garage, told a story Nathan hadn't. Blood, not just a little. Traces on the garage floor, blood on a doorknob, blood in sinks, kitchen and bathroom. Signs someone tried to clean. In the basement, they found a sports bag with shoes caked in mud. In the attic, more shoes, clothing, some stained. Investigators looked at the mud and thought, this looks like the marsh. They sent it to the lab, and when the results came back, the case snapped into focus. Lauren's blood was on items inside Nathan's house, and the mud matched the area where her body was found. At that point, Nathan wasn't just the ex-boyfriend. He was the prime suspect. He was put on the wanted list. And within hours, police located him at a relative's home in a nearby town. Just after midnight on July 4th, 2011, Nathaniel Fujita was arrested. He was 20 years old, charged with murder. And from the beginning, Nathan's behavior stood out. He stayed quiet, detached, unresponsive. No emotional collapse, no frantic explanations, just blank. Some people interpret that as guilt, some as shock, some as dissociation. But either way, it didn't help him, because physical evidence speaks a language that doesn't require a confession. At early hearings, he pleaded not guilty, barely audible. Prosecutors anticipated an insanity defense, and that's exactly where the case eventually went. But before trial, more information surfaced about Nathan's jealousy. Years earlier, there was an incident at a dance. Lauren was with friends. A guy danced with her, kissed her. Nathan showed up, shoved the guy, threatened him, reportedly saying he'd slit his throat if he came near Lauren again. At the time, it may have been shrugged off as teenage drama. After Lauren was killed, that threat sounded like a warning that had been ignored. Now, fast forward to the trial, which began in 2013. The defense didn't deny Nathan killed Lauren. Instead, they tried to answer a different question. Was he legally responsible? They argued Nathan was suffering from severe mental illness, deep depression, possible effects from head injuries from football, heavy substance use. Their claim, in the moment, he wasn't in control in the way the law requires for full culpability. They described a scenario where Lauren came to his house to check on him. They said he had a manic break, a disturbed episode, and attacked her without understanding his actions. They argued he didn't experience emotion about it in a normal way, that his mind was disconnected. It's a strategy that can work in some cases, because insanity isn't, I was sad. It's not, I was angry. It's not even, I blacked out. It's a legal standard. Did the person understand what they were doing? And did they understand it was wrong? That's the line. The prosecution's argument was the opposite. This wasn't a break. This was revenge. They presented the planning behaviors. The phone calls to Lauren, the timing, waiting until his parents weren't home, the crime scene cleanup, the evidence concealment, the disposal of her body. They argued, a person who is truly unaware doesn't clean up, hide clothing, switch shoes, dump keys, and try to erase a trail. Those are choices, and choices imply awareness. They laid out a reconstruction. Lauren left work, speaking to Nathan. She went to his house, likely expecting a brief conversation. Something happened in the garage. Lauren fought. The autopsy showed injuries beyond a single wound, evidence of struggle, defensive wounds. Then the cover-up began. Lauren's Jeep ended up at the beach parking lot, windows down. Investigators believe Nathan staged that to create confusion, to make it look like she vanished near the water. Her keys were later found where he'd discarded them. Then her body was transported and placed in a marsh, where he seemed to believe she would sink out of sight. But the water didn't hide her. It brought her back. Witness testimony also painted a picture of Nathan in the aftermath. Unusual behavior, odd comments. There were reports he told a relative the murder weapon would never be found, and prosecutors framed that as not depression, but control. Control over the narrative. Control over what people would know. Control even after he'd taken Lauren's life. For weeks, the court heard testimony. Experts argued. Family members sat through details no parent should ever hear. Lauren's mother lived in silent grief, listening to how her daughter likely remained alive for minutes, bleeding, suffering. And in the end, the jury had to decide, was Nathan legally insane, or was he responsible for a deliberate, jealous, violent act? On March 7, 2013, Nathaniel Fujita was found guilty on all charges. In Massachusetts, first-degree murder carries life without the possibility of parole. And as the sentence was read, something happened that people still talk about. Malcolm Astley, Lauren's father, walked across the courtroom and embraced Nathan's parents. Just think about that. A father who had lost his only child, comforting the parents of the man who killed her. That doesn't excuse anything, but it shows something rare. The ability to see that tragedy doesn't always come in clean categories, because Nathan's parents lost their son too, in a different way. And in that moment, Malcolm understood that both families would live with this forever. After the trial, Lauren's parents made a decision. They could be consumed by grief, or they could turn that grief into a warning. They began speaking about breakup violence, teen relationship warning signs, control disguised as love, jealousy framed as caring. They worked to keep Lauren's name attached to something bigger than her death. And that's how Lauren's legacy grew beyond the worst day of her life. Years later, developments in Massachusetts law created new uncertainty. In 2024, the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court issued a decision affecting life without parole sentences for people who were under 21 at the time of their crime. That ruling raised fears for victims' families across the state, because it could mean some sentences would be revisited. Lauren's parents have spoken about that fear. The idea that the person who killed their daughter might someday have a legal path to release. And that's another layer of this story that people don't always talk about. A conviction doesn't always feel like the end. For families, it can feel like the beginning of a long vigil. Court dates, appeals, hearings, headlines coming back years later. A wound that never fully closes because the system keeps reopening it. So what do we take from Lauren's case? We take the uncomfortable truth that breakup violence doesn't always start with a punch. Sometimes it starts with, "I just want to talk. Just give me 5 minutes. You owe me closure. If you loved me, you wouldn't do this." Sometimes it starts with public jealousy, controlling behavior, intimidation at parties, things people shrug off as drama. But those behaviors aren't harmless. They're signals. And Lauren's story is also a reminder of a painful reality. The kindest people, helpers, fixers, peacemakers, can be the most vulnerable in situations like this, because they're the ones who keep trying to make it okay, even when someone else is turning love into entitlement. Lauren Astley should have been packing for college, planning her future, stepping into adulthood with a life full of music, friends, and possibilities. Instead, her name became a lesson, one she never asked to teach. If you're listening and you've ever felt your gut tighten around someone's love, trust that feeling. Love doesn't collapse tents. Love doesn't stalk you through a party. Love doesn't punish you for leaving. Love doesn't turn rejection into rage. And if someone in your life is showing those signs, take them seriously. Tell someone. Document. Create distance. Get support. Because the most dangerous time in an unhealthy relationship is often the moment you try to leave. And Lauren's story proves that in the most heartbreaking way. Rest in peace, Lauren Astley.
If you like this story, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so YouTube lets you know when we upload a new video. And leave a comment. What case or story do you want us to cover next?